Hi again. Okay, so I am going to make butternut squash soup now. So what I did earlier is I went ahead and I baked my butternut, and I got this trick from a good friend of mine, and I'm so glad that she shared it with me because it makes making butternut squash soup, number one, really easy. So I do it a lot more frequently that way. And it's so, there's less mess. I mean, everything about it I love. So what she suggested, and I thought that this was really cool, was to actually take the butternut squash and bake it whole. We do this with an organic butternut squash. I've heard stories that if it's not organic, that basically it can explode. I don't know if it's that, you guys can see my doggy down here. I don't know if it's due to pesticides or what, but I've never tried it with a non-organic one, and I'm not going to start now because I don't want anything exploding in my oven. So it's the whole butternut squash. You put it at about 350 degrees, depending upon the size of it. It's about 45 minutes, but you bake it basically until the outside becomes golden brown. And this is what it looks like. So it becomes brown, okay, and you can almost see it's kind of bubbly so that the skin kind of very easily peels away. That's how you know that it's done. And so what you do from here is you take both the ends of the butternut and you just basically cut them off. So both the blunt end and the stem. Then you pretty much just slice it all the way down the middle, nice and easy, and everything just kind of falls apart. So it looks like this, okay? So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clear out all the seeds, which again is super simple because all you have to do is basically take just the seed part out and see how easily they just kind of peels away from the actual flesh. Because I don't want any of that part, of course. Unless, I mean, if you want to roast them or if you want to, I separate them sometimes and basically I'll put those in my garden and I'll use those next year. I'm not going to do it with this one because I have a ton of butternut squash seeds, so I don't need any more, but you can basically clean these, dry these, and then go to plant them, although they've been warmed up, so I'm not sure how that would work, but anyway. So now what you want to do with the flesh is you literally, and I hope you can see this, because what it does is it actually just falls away from the skin. So you can, within its own shell, just kind of scoop the flesh part out and it will pull completely away from the shell. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in my blender. So I'm gonna get my blender ready because all I'm gonna do is scrape it right into the blender. So all of the flesh from the butternut will just peel right away from the shell and come right off. So that all you're left with, once basically you get through all of the flesh of it, you are left with the empty shell, which makes it really easy to see how it just peels away. It's super cool. It makes it really easy to separate because part of the problem with doing a butternut squash is separating the flesh from the skin, and oftentimes you lose a lot of the flesh in the process. But this way, you literally get it all. So I'm going to do that to both sides of the butternut. So I'm just going to de-seed this one real quick. And after I bake it, I do let it cool because obviously you're handling it. So it just makes it easier to do it that way. You can kind of break it up like I'm doing here to help pull it away if you want to. It kind of just depends upon whatever is easiest to either scoop it out or peel it away. But either way, it's pretty dang simple. And like I said, this is just a really easy way to do it if you're making soup or if you're making mashed butternut, if you're doing it as like a side dish. This is a good way to basically do it mashed as well. Same kind of simple thought process as anything that you can do basically to get as much of the flesh as possible without basically giving too much of it up in your recipe would be my advice, so whatever is easier for you. And I'm just going to pull away a few more pieces of the skin to get the yummy flesh part that I want out and in my soup pot. All right, so all of the flesh is in there. That's going to make the actual soup. Now, set this down. What I also do is, while I'm doing that, I actually saute garlic and onions with some thyme and any other kind of fresh herbs. Sage is very good to have in it, anything along those lines. But what I also add to it, and I'll show you, is I add nuts. So I just saute in with my garlic and my garlic and onions. I have used both walnuts. These are almonds. I've used pecans before too. So it's kind of whatever I have. I just kind of flavor them all together. What I toast them in, or what I toast them with is, or I should say saute them. They're not really toasted. I saute them with is coconut oil. So I get some good fats in there too. And it's a nice flavor combination with the butternut. It has like a light coconut flavor. The thyme that I have in here, I'm going to take out. I don't want that in my soup. It actually doesn't really emulsify and it just turns into like sticks. So I'm going to take that out. Then I'm going to take my sauteed items and I'm just going to pour it right into my blender. And sometimes I'll do this and you can add some white wine or something like that. I mean, whatever sounds good as far as layering of the flavors. That's more of a personal thing and what's best for you. But I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there, and then I'm going to take a jar of my stock that I canned, and I am going to pour it right in here. And this isn't warm or anything like that. It's still cool. Because I'm going to let it simmer on the stove for a while, so it doesn't have to be warm as far as the stock goes. Then I go ahead, put it here in my blender if my blender wants to work, but it's deciding not to, of course. Oh, I know why. This is one of the ninja ones, and it won't. I have to like put the top down before it'll work, I think. Technical difficulties. Should have people for this, but I don't have people. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. Well, shoot. Let me figure this out. 1 second. There we go. And I think I broke my blender. Whoops. I really think I broke it. Well, I mentioned the last one, it was kind of jacked up, and maybe Santa is going to bring me a new one. I don't know. Maybe I'll just buy myself one. There's a novel idea. There we go. Finally. And you blend it up so it's nice and fine. And then I'm going to pour it in my pan so you can kind of see the consistency of it. And now I am going to let it simmer. So it's a good way of doing it. Like I said, that way you don't have to cut up the butternut squash raw or whole. And then that way you can easily just throw it all together and you can make a nice soup. Hope you enjoy it. Bye.